Hey, I'm Chris Marquardt. This is kind of a reaction video to the invisible camera that is now 10 years old. 10 years ago, Allan and I created an April Fool's joke video of an invention that would revolutionize photography, and I thought it would be fun to look at that from 10 years back, because a lot of people remember that. So I'm going to play the video. I will stop it every now and then and talk about a few of the details in there and give you some background. So let me kick this off. Music by Kevin MacLeod. I asked Kevin if I could use the music without crediting him, and he was happy to do so. I think he listened to Tips from the Top Floor back then, and he was like, "Yep, sure, go ahead. This sounds like a fun project." So, yeah, this is the source of music, and we split this whole thing up in different acts. And the first act is the opening, a photo revolution, kind of hinting at what is about to happen. So let me play this.
About 2 years ago, I started to rediscover my love for analog photography. And I shot so much digital that I kind of wanted a bit of that simplicity back.
So the love for analog photography, totally true. Again, this was in 2011, 2009, I rediscovered the whole analog photography thing. And so I think that's one of the signs of a good prank video, that there's a lot of truth in there, and it's kind of interspersed with things that are a bit more outrageous. So you will see more of that.
And I began to build very simple pinhole cameras, and that led...
True, I was building pinhole cameras back then, really simple ones made from cardboard boxes.
To me building a much sturdier version.
This is the much sturdier. This is the Marquardt International Pinhole, which was on sale back then and will soon be back, by the way. This is one of the early prototypes that you're seeing here, with a pinhole holder, I think made by Skink. I bought that from eBay, and it holds film in the back, and it's a box with a beautiful box, and that was kind of the template for the invisible camera.
And around that time, I happened to talk to Sebastian. Over a couple of...
Second act, a chance encounter. I haven't really said anything about the camera just yet in the video, and the second act is pretty much how did this thing start, whatever it is going to be.
Here's my friend who works for the Max Planck Institute told me about a site.
True story. Sebastian, my friend, did work for the Max Planck Institute in Tübingen. I think he still does. And we wanted to make this more convincing. So including Max Planck Institute makes perfect sense, because it is scientific and everything. And we did ask to shoot there inside the Max Planck Institute, but didn't get any permission. So we just shot on the outside. Just a sign, which is public, so helps to add the convincing element that the Max Planck Institute is involved.
Project they've been working on for, 15 years, and they call that Lichtverstärkung, which translates to light amplification.
Totally made up. Lichtverstärkung, light amplification does not exist, at least not that I know of. And then we're showing knobs being twiddled by scientists, which again is just some lab equipment.
They were experimenting with...
This is my audio mixer. These are just buttons on a Mackie audio mixer. Nothing worth speaking of, but it does look scientific.
Electromagnetic fields to do some really complicated stuff with light particles.
In den 90er Jahren haben wir...
This is Allan's neighbor. Allan Attridge is, well, again, Allan is the one who came up with the entire idea. He shot the whole thing with me. He edited it. He did the whole production on it. So major kudos go to Allan. And he asked his neighbor if he was happy to play a scientist. So that's what he did. He came over to the studio. We had a tiny little script for him that the laptop, we put the Max Planck logo on the laptop and some charts and stuff that looks scientific. I think it's just stuff we made up or found online. And this is the only uncluttered corner in my studio. So it's lots of fun to pretend this is at the Max Planck Institute while it clearly is not. And the translation is Allan's voice, kind of as a voiceover over the neighbor who speaks German, because he's a German scientist, and that helps with the whole convincing business.
In the early 90s, we developed a technology with the Jacques Cousteau Foundation.
Jacques Cousteau Foundation. Oh my God, what an idea.
To amplify the minute traces of light present at a depth of 8,000 meters. Electromagnetic principles allow this instrument to amplify...
And by the way, keep an ear on the music. The dramatic music in the background, which just is, it's barely there, but it adds a lot of perceived drama, how like mystery and
fictional light in a way that was previously unthinkable.
Act number 3. Now this whole thing is beginning to come together. I remember working on the script with Allan, and I mean, we had so much fun. It was so funny to put all these things together.
Most of what Sebastian told me didn't really make a lot of sense to me, but on the train ride home, we just needed this snippet of video, and I just shot this with my smartphone camera in the other hand, while a couple of people sitting in the same area of the train were looking at me as if I was crazy. I mean, today, 2021, shooting a selfie video, there's nothing to it, but 2011, people were looking funny. I started to think about what application that could have for photography. In standard photography,
and here's the first look at the actual invisible camera.
Only use 2 to 4% of the energy.
Only hinting at what it looks like. This is just a side view of one of the Perspex panels that it's built from.
And that's when I began to wonder if there was a way for us to harness some of the energy in the ambient light.
Oh, look at this beautifully lit corner there. Can you see the bubbles in there? Because it's glued together, and knowing that it is just a Perspex box, a plexiglass box, you can see all the imperfections, everything.
You right away that an electromagnetic...
And so the light effects you see there, that is Allan and myself turning lights back and forth from the sidelines.
Solution wouldn't really be practical. For this project to take hold, we needed to use a much simpler solution. And that's when the invisible camera was born.
The first look at the invisible camera, which again, I think that thing cost me about 60 euros, and it's a custom-made Perspex box, made from plexiglass, the same shape as the real Marquardt International pinhole camera, the skink pinhole in there, just stuck in there. It's not even glued in there. It's just held there by not even friction, just gravity, and you can see the fingerprints on it. It was so horrible to work with that box because it was a fingerprint magnet. So I always, during the shooting of this, I always had a microfiber cloth in my pocket, trying to get the fingerprints off. And swirling lights, dramatic camera angles, and the music. Ooh, the drama. Next act, an invisible camera.
The principle of this camera is very much like a simple pinhole camera, except that this one is entirely transparent. I began constructing this prototype using a special polarized glass that aligns the ambient light and...
Okay, special polarized plexiglass. No, not at all. And the thing I made up here is just a bunch of slides. I don't even know what software I drew that in. Helps convince.
And amplifies the energy that forms the image. Our initial tests were so successful that our light meter readings were off the scale.
Oh yeah, I tried to make the light meter move. So I think I pointed a light at it from the top, or was it? No, I think I held the other hand on top of the light meter so the needle would be a bit lower, and then I took it off so the needle would move and you could see some motion there. It's an old Luna 6 light meter, old German product from Gossen. I don't know, from the 60s maybe. And yeah, it looks very scientific.
At this point, the idea would work in theory, but there was still one major obvious obstacle. We needed to find a way to capture the image. And that's where directional desensitization entered the picture.
Directional desensitization, can't even say it. Directional desensitization is the biggest bullshit word that Allan, I'm not even sure if Allan came up with this or I, but directional desensitization, that was, such a made up piece of BS.
I contacted a colleague at Spürsinn and explained the situation. Once he stopped laughing and realized that I was serious, he told me he'd give it some thought. That was the beginning of an 18-month process that...
these pieces of film that... Let me just go back here.
Once he stopped laughing and realized that I was serious,
that is just a 4x5 inch sheet film that you can buy and even still today and develop. I do it 4x5 large format camera. I think this is what we call victim film. This is unexposed film. Well, now it is well exposed because it's out in daylight, and we use this for photo workshops to show people how to put that into the cassettes and so on. So that's just stuff I had lying around in the studio. So yeah, that is the film that we used. The film that we used in the Invisible Camera.
He'd give it some thought. That was the beginning of an 18-month process that ultimately led to directional desensitization.
Okay, this is Michael Weil, who at that time ran an online shop for film and chemistry and lots of stuff around film photography. He and Tilla P, they pretty much helped us get back into analog photography, Monica and myself. So we held some workshops together with them, and at one time during that shooting we had a workshop, and I asked him to just go along with it for an April Fool's joke, and he was really happy to play the photochemistry specialist, and came up with something that we made up on the spot, and says these things. He shows film, and
we started with one of our standard films
chemistry
and combined it with an innovation in chemistry. Making use of our new desensitization method, we can now eliminate the non-directional ambient light so that the film only registers light from a very specific angle.
And the camera I shot this with was like really bad in terms of sound, but it doesn't really matter because Allan did the voiceover, and it's just another piece in the puzzle to make this convincing, because it looks official. There's a shop, he has film, he knows how to make the chemistry, and it's just another convincer.
Aufnehmen auf dem Filmmaterial. Das ist eine Sensation.
This is just development utensils in my own studio. We just put them on the shelf to make them look like they're important. Just if you develop film, that's just the regular kind of stuff that you have around. It's nothing to do with directional desensitization.
After many unsuccessful attempts, they developed a revolutionary new film that is completely unaffected by ambient light. The ambient light by nature is tremendously scattered.
This is, okay, again, all made up. I mean, ambient light, tremendously scattered. I don't think that has anything to do with if the light is ambient or not.
This new film only registers light when focused from a very specific angle. This allows us to use all the energy in the ambient light without altering the content of the image. It also means that we can handle this film in broad daylight with no effect whatsoever.
Which is, of course, a really wild thing to say, because if you handle film in broad daylight, then that is X film. Then that's the only exposure that he will ever see. Next act, fractional ISO. So at this point, Allan and I, we try to make this more and more unbelievable. Well, not unbelievable, because we try to make it believable. What we were striving for is to add more and more wild things on top that don't really hold up to scrutiny, but just in the heat of the moment, it would be possible to kind of go along with it. So fractional ISO, another one of those.
Placing the lens with a precision pinhole, and by using amplified light, we're able to achieve fractional ISOs. In the past, a low ISO was considered ISO 100, ISO 50, ISO 25, but with the directional desensitization technology, we're actually looking at somewhere in the range of ISO 1500. This in turn produces a resolution boost that gives us the digital equivalent of about 3000 5D Mark IIs. That's enough to cover half a football field.
Wait. Go. Let me go back to that. How on earth does it make sense for to express? Okay, so we thought, how could we make this as ludicrous as possible, and we went back to the to the thing that you get when someone is trying to show you area or explain area. Football fields are a really common measure there. You would have, I don't know, the surface of the lung measured in football fields, or the surface of charcoal, or whatever. So we worked that in there.
This in turn produces a resolution boost that gives us the digital equivalent of about 3000 5D Mark IIs. That's enough to cover half a football field.
Half a football field.
What we've done here is we have effectively ended the megapixel race. We've skipped gigapixels altogether, and we've now entered the realm of the terapixel.
Okay. Terapixel. Okay, and then we took the whole camera to the woods, out in the forest somewhere behind where Allan used to live, and we shot some stuff in the field.
When I imagined the camera, I knew
this was the most, let's say, the most scientific, the most sturdy looking tripod that I had, which is a video tripod. And we used that for a couple of reasons. One being that it looks impressive.
It needed to be practical if anyone besides myself was going to use it. The last thing I wanted to devise was a gimmick like 3D or HDR.
So he said 3D and HDR are gimmicks, perfectly knowing that they aren't.
And I knew that if anyone was going to use the...
Look at the camera and how it nicely sits on top of this tripod. It doesn't have a tripod thread, so it was just set on top, and with the back sitting on the thing just by friction, and the pinhole holder sitting in there just by friction. This whole thing, one sharp look and it would fall apart, and it would fall off the tripod. So it was a real balancing act to make it look like it was attached there. And during shooting, I had to put it back on several times, adding new fingerprints. It was a nightmare.
Camera in the field, it had to be really sturdy. The material we use here is not only polarizing, it's also very strong. In fact, the engineers who built this camera told me that it's bulletproof.
Bulletproof, yeah, right.
Even though I never hoped to.
Look at the fingerprints! I mean, this is such a beautiful shot from a light point of view. Kudos to Allan for coming up with that. But the best wiping would just... And you can see I have to hold it at an angle towards me so the pinhole holder doesn't fall out. I mean, yeah.
Find that out. We also needed the film to be easy to access and handle.
See how I'm holding the back, the film back with my thumb? Because if I hadn't held it, they would have fallen off.
And since it's directionally desensitized, we don't have to worry about change bags or dark rooms. We still need to avoid fingerprints, but that's actually pretty easy to do.
And this is just me pretending to, I don't know, to look in detail.
So far, in order to keep it simple, we have been focusing on the pinhole model and on the extremely low ISOs. We're actually working on a controlled shutter version now that will allow us for extremely fast shutter speeds of 100,000th of a second.
Okay, shutter at 100,000th of a second. I mean, that's definitely possible in the lab, but of course, it doesn't make any sense in this context.
And faster. We feel that this will not only appeal to scientific endeavors, but its simplicity will allow it to be accessible to a broad range of photographers.
And the music, and the swirly lights, and the fingerprints. And then we set up a web page with where we were collecting addresses, email addresses and names, and people could submit their application to be a field tester. For I think we said we'll be giving out 100 cameras to field testers. The website isn't really active anymore. I think it's mostly broken at this point. And yeah, it was amazing. It was a wonderful exercise for us. Let me bring my video up here. It was a wonderful exercise for us in how you can use video to tell really convincing stories. It was a bit scary, to be honest, because in the week we released this a week before April the 1st, just to add this little bit of convincing to it. And we got emails and field test submissions from teachers, from scientists, from special effects people, from all sorts of people. And it was a good exercise for us to understand how strong medium can be, video can be, if you don't care about what people believe. And we see this today in many areas where people believe things that are on video because they are on video. So for us, it was a really interesting exercise. I would highly recommend to just for some comic relief to also watch part 2 of this, which again is the
rolling the sound.
Which is mainly
the material we use is not only polarizing first, right?
Which is the behind the scenes with lots of Chris breaking down laughing.
This is real science. You have to keep respect.
Procedure is to set it on here and hope it doesn't fall off. But the pinhole is gone. Oh crap! So much fun to do. Here's the forest. Yeah, that was one of the comments we got. Thanks a lot, assholes. Quite a few people did not think this was funny, or at least, I guess, didn't think it was funny after they were caught believing it, which we're very sorry for. But yeah, maybe we all learned something from this. But a lot of people really enjoyed this, and yeah, so we didn't feel too bad about it.
Die Kamera. Lass die Kamera, die ist nicht da. Das kommt.
Oh, sorry.
Don't touch it. It's falling off.
It's gonna fall when I talk.
More enthusiasm.
Okay, last time.
So yeah, I guess we'll stop it here. It was awesome, and I think, well, and I could never really do an April Fool's joke anymore after that, because people, even if I released anything around April the 1st, people would just come back with, "Oh yeah, that's another invisible camera." So that I burnt my ability to release April Fool's jokes for forever. I think maybe now I could start that up again, but I didn't for this year. But yeah, so it was a wonderful learning exercise. It was great fun doing it. It was scary while it lasted. We took it off after 1 week because we were getting scared of people really believing it and not identifying it as an April Fool's joke. But it's just what happens. So yeah, thanks for watching.